Good morning, grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender HD. If you want to follow me there on Twitter, and it's Casual Friday. We're back. We're back. We took 2 days off, right? We're going to take 2 days off next week also, and then we got NBA, and then we got tons of stuff to talk about, right? Not going to sit here and say the same things over and over on Wednesday and Thursday when there's not much going on. So it's Casual Friday, answering questions from the YouTube chat. As always, I see you guys in there: Anthony Golding, Sterling Woods, Suki Singh, Daniel Hutchings, Josh Duck. Is that your real last name? Or maybe we have a duck. We have a quacker in there. Colin Lawson, Matt Mears. We got Devin. Devin's here. Devin typically does not produce this show. He's obviously, I don't know, doing employee evaluation or something. I don't know. I'm on bad behavior break or something. I have no idea. It's a special day. So click on those thumbs up. I'm going to wave my thumbs at you. Wave, thumb. Give me those thumbs. Thumb, do a little thumb wrestling, whatever. Click the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Notification bell to know when we go live. But we got an NFL slate coming up this Sunday, and I've kind of barely looked at it. But this is when I start looking at stuff, right? You start researching it. But researching it doesn't mean I'm going to go in and take a look and let me take a look at the Trevor Lawrence film from the past game. No, I don't care about any of these people, right? I research it through the projections, we got the ownership, we got the median floor ceiling projections here. And I just want to run lineups to see what shows up. So one thing that I like doing is I like aggregating projections, right? Because I have the blitz from Derek Hardy. I trust his modeling methodology, but our gridiron IQ projections are pretty good. Jamino's behind them. So sometimes I want to aggregate them together, and you can do that now in Lineup HQ, right? If you have your own projections, you can upload anything. If you get projections from somewhere else, right? Maybe you subscribe to multiple sites and you want to, I'm going to aggregate them all together, weight them out. You could average them. You could do whatever you want. So like, with the gridiron and IQ and the blitz projections, I could go here and I could create my own aggregate. So if I want 50% weight on the blitz and 50% weight on the gridiron IQ projections, I could create my own aggregate projections. We could call them the blitz iron IQ. Let's call it the blitz iron IQ. Right? We could name it whatever we want. Blitz iron IQ. You could also aggregate stuff and keep it even when the projections are updated. So what I mean is that your aggregate will not be updated, but you could save. So what sometimes I do is that I'll aggregate a bunch of sources together on like Friday night, and then I'll aggregate them together and call it the Friday night version of that. And then like Saturday night, I have a Saturday night version just to keep myself in check on what version of my aggregate is it. Or you could have different aggregates. You can do whatever you want. But sometimes, the naming convention, you could hold on to it. I could aggregate this different ways. I could do the blitz iron IQ 80-20 or 50-50 or 20-80 or whatever I want, and then just do multiple aggregates if you wanted to do it. I'm not saying you would, but if you did, you can. So I'm gonna save this projection set. I'm gonna weight the blitz by 50 and the gridiron IQ by 50%. I'm gonna save it here. It's gonna now aggregate them all together, right? If you have multiple other sources, you could weight them any way you want. I want this at 20%, that at 10%, this at 20, 30%, whatever you want to do. I'm not saying you have to do this, but some projection sets have, skew a little in certain directions, may have some outliers, and maybe you want to smooth that out a little. So, okay, so we got the Blitz Iron IQ projections. Let's get that loaded as I go in the YouTube chat. Casual question from Michael Dampier. Do you use defense deflated or defense agnostic? Is there every reason you vacillate between them? The blitz projections have separate sets if you wanted to use defense deflated or defense agnostic. Defense deflated just means that if we see at the defense, like the defense projections are so, like they're the most variant position, and the differences between them are not that dramatic. So like in our aggregate right here, the Blitz Iron IQ, it'll give me a lot of Eagles, Raiders, Washington, Cowboys. I mean, because out of these, it projects the best point per dollar, salary adjusted value, and not give me much of the Broncos at 4,200 or the Bears at 3,200. Right? You're not going to get much of them. So if you want to make these closer together, right? That they're still weighted. They still, defenses project better than other defenses, but you don't want it to be as dramatic. Then you would do defense deflated. Right. So if you go to defense deflated, I'll switch between them. I'll show you. So if you go to defense deflated, you'll see once this loads up, go to defense, go to RGB. They're much closer together. From the blitz, the good defenses still project better, but like, look at there's not, here's the lowest, the 4-point projection over here. Just the range is narrower. So you're more likely to get different defenses. Now, if you do agnostic, that means all defenses basically project the same for their salary. They're essentially all the same. So if you spend 4,200, you get the same amount of points. So if we go here, we could see here just by RGB, like they're all like, Patriots shouldn't be 12.25. They're not going to project that well, but they're 4,900, 4,700. So from a point per dollar, you can see from the point per dollar column. Like they're all the same. I don't know why the Raiders are a little bit off. So you use defense agnostic if you just said, like, literally just obliterate the defensive projections and just whatever fits. Like it'll be an exact whatever. If you're going to get an even amount, depending on obviously the player salaries and the rest of your lineup, as you would. It's whatever you want to do. I don't mind using the actual defensive projections, but I control my exposure through other means, through max exposure. But if you don't want to do that, then you could just use defense agnostic and it'll just jam in whatever fits. If you wanted to do that. So that's why Cardi does give you those two options. But I'm aggregating the two for this purposes today. I'm aggregating the Gridiron IQ and the Blitz projections together. And what I'm going to do is like, okay, I have no idea what's going on this slate. Okay, I have some idea, but not that much. But in GPPs, we're primarily stacking in some way, right? We're playing a team, we're playing a game, right? So the lineups that are going to project the best are going to be ones that have the highest projected players for their salary that are all in the same game. So we could do that. We could look at that. We go to the flex position, and we could do that game by game if we want. We could go to New Orleans, Washington, and go, we look at salary adjusted plus minus, right, which is the RGB we have here at RotoGrinders, and go, who projects well in this game? Well, really like Kamara and Samuel and maybe McLaurin, right? So we're looking for green numbers, right, that project well. Doesn't mean you can't play guys that are down here, but it's like who projects well. That the term well. Okay, go to New England and Houston. Okay, actually has Jacoby Myers, Brandon Cooks, Damian Harris. Okay, because we're going to be playing multiple of these guys together. Detroit, Minnesota, right, has 4 that are green. Right, we could go one by one. We could go, okay, how many of these? Okay, we got 4 green here. Now you could do that one by one. We could predict what's going to end up happening when I do this. Like we go to Dallas, Giants, look how many green are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That project well, have a positive salary adjusted value. So most likely, if you're going to stack, if you're going to play like 3 guys from one side and 1 guy from the other side, they're going to come. If you don't touch anything, right? You don't sit, you're just trying to build the highest projected lineups. They're all going to come. They're going to come from the games that have more players that are together that project well. So based on this aggregate, it's most likely the Giants Cowboys game, and we could see that by testing that out. So instead of going one by one through all the games and going, how do these pieces fit? We could let's just run some lineups. Okay, now I'm going to run this lineup. I'm going to run a stack. I don't care, like a quarterback and 2. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this. Remember, I'm doing this just for research. Not these are the lineups I'm going to build. So I'm taking 3 players from one team and 2 players from the other team, right? And 100% of my lineups. 3-2. I'm probably not going to play any 3-2 lineups unless it's a really small field. But basically, I'm saying what games have 5 players, including the quarterback, that project well together. So these are the games that are most likely to target for stacking. Okay. So instead of doing 3-1, I'm just going to do 3-2. I'm just going to say, like, give me 5 guys. Good hell, give me 6 guys. Just so I see what games stand out. How, like we saw from the Giants Cowboys, right? You could go game by game and go, oh, well, there's a lot of people that project well for the salary in this game. Most likely that's going to be a good game to stack, right? So I'm going to build 100 lineups. With this, like if I didn't do what I just did before, looking through game by game, I could just go straight to this and go, I don't know what's going on the slate. I don't know what the team totals are. I don't know anything. I have no clue what's going on. It's like, okay, I just want to see, since I'm going to be probably stacking something, right, in some regard, even if it's a skinny stack, right? I want to see what games stand out from a projection standpoint. So I'm going to build 100 lineups with these 3-2 combinations just to see. Just seeing. Remember, I'm not using these lineups. I'm just seeing what games stand out that have multiple players in it that project well, so I can have good projected lineups. I don't care about the ownership at this point either. That's all I'm doing. Going through the YouTube chat. Weast, if I tried my own Excel formula for the first time last week and I predicted a large majority of the best players per dollar, should I just stick with that or was it luck? I don't know. I don't know what your model is. I have no idea. You're not really you're not predicting outcomes. You're just looking for ranges of outcomes, median projections. But I have no idea. How am I supposed to be able to tell? Was it luck? I don't know. But like I said, you're not using anything to predict outcomes. Oh, I predicted this at 17 and he got 18. Oh, I was close. Like that's really not what this is. Okay, so as I expected, we go to the quarterback, Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott in 100% of the lineups. Right, we take a look at Daniel Jones, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Evan Engram, Kenny Golladay, all together. Right, 152. I mean, they're high-owned lineups, obviously. This is going to be probably the most popular game. Right? We could look through, but I don't care about the lineups. I just care about like the game. Okay, so obviously I went through it before and I went game by game and go, oh, there's a lot of people in the green in this game. So what do you know when you want to force 5 guys from the same game in? That's going to project well. It's going to be what game has the most green players in it. Okay, but now we got this, and we go, okay, well, obviously I'm probably not going to play all my lineups with this game. So let's see if there are other games. Now, since the quarterback is the linchpin of stacks in general for the entire game, for what you're doing here, let's try to just cut this off, right? I don't even care about the unique players. One player, unique player. Let's cut this off at 20%, okay? Which means based on this, we're going to get 20% Daniel Jones. We're going to get 20% Dak. But who do we get in the rest? Well, who could it be, right? So I'm going to run this again and go, okay, we already identified the Cowboys Giants game. Okay. Remember, you could just walk up. You could, whatever, sit at your computer, type it in, whatever, and go up to lineup HQ. You could do this at 90 minutes before on Sunday. Like, I've never looked at the slate. I have no idea what's going on. And just you could do this simple research right then and go, okay, what are the best games to stack? Regardless of ownership, that's the next step. But just to see, just like what players project well together in the same game. So you don't have to guess on that. You could just go, you look at the projections and see what it is. How do they fit together? Matt Hackenmiller, when entering a 20 max, are you more likely to focus on 1 and 2 stacks or spread it out to 6 or 7 stacks? And that question does not matter. Do whatever you want. Just play 20 plus EV lineups. What you're asking is a matter of diversification, not strategy. Will I play? Can I play 6 or 7 stacks out of in 20 lines? Sure. If that's 7 stack, if there's a lineup that is as good as the other stacks, then play it. But I'm not purposely going to play a lineup that's way worse just for the sake of having diversification. You have to figure that out. So if you wanted to play 20 lineups with the same game stack with different, go, that's fine. If they're plus EV lineups, go for it. Just realize that all your eggs are in that one basket. If you could find other lineups that have other games that are close to those lineups, then you can play those other lineups. Okay, let's take a look at what it comes out. Okay, so we got the Prescott, we got Jones, we got Tom Brady. So we got the Tampa game. I'm assuming a lot of these lineups are going to have Fournette in it also, right? So we're going to get right since we just was like who's in there. So I got Brady, Fournette, Godwin. Are there any Brady lineups without Fournette? Probably not. So I didn't cap anything because Fournette projects well at running back at 5,200. Doesn't mean, I mean, you can play them together. That's fine. I'm just looking. Okay, so we got some Tom Brady. We got some Jacoby Brissett. Interesting, right? Interesting. Let's take a look at what these look like. As a 3+2, if we were to do this, right? Miami and Tampa Bay, right? So you'd play Brissett, Waddle, Gesicki, Fournette, Brown, right? See, this looks good. Brissett, Waddle. Do we have any like Parker in there? Does Parker show up at all? But any Parker. Go by team. Okay, so we got some Devontae Parker, right? Right, Parker, Brady, Fournette as the run backs. Okay, so that's another game. So just based on running the lineups, I go, okay. Miami versus Tampa Bay looks pretty good. Let's go to count. How about Trevor Lawrence? Okay, so this is Jacksonville versus Tennessee. Right, so you play Lawrence, Robinson, Chenault, Ferkser, Henry. You know, say some combination of that. Chenault, Marvin Jones. Okay, so Jacksonville, Tennessee, because you could also play Henry, who's going to be chalky. Robinson is also going to be chalky, right? Both running backs in the game are going to be over 20% owned based on our current ownership. So that's another game from a projection standpoint that you could target, just based on the projections that you have. Trey Lance, let's see, San Francisco, Arizona. Okay, I mean, that seems doable. It doesn't come up as much, right? We limit it to 20%. So now let's limit it to, let's try to get a little bit even more. And remember, we're doing 3+2. We're probably not going to play 3+2 lineups. I'm just trying to find the games that have the most amount of high projected for their salary players together. That's all I'm looking for. So now let's set quarterback max exposure to 15, right? So obviously we set it to 15. We should get, right? We should get Brady at 15, Dak at 15, Daniel Jones at 15, Brissett at 15. We'll get Trevor Lawrence at 15. Then we're going to start seeing these guys start coming up a little bit more, right? So we want to see where those guys stand. So let's build 100 lineups. This is research. This is not, you're not building these lineups. These lineups, you're not playing these lineups. You're just doing research on the games. What players project well together. Then you can worry about ownership later. So let's see. We're up to 45. I'll talk a little bit about MMA. I know people like on Fridays. It's going to be hard. MMA, we already have a replacement fighter, right? Deron Wynn is out, and Chris Curtis is in. That got announced like an hour and a half ago. And then they still don't have the Silvana Juarez in the player pool, who's facing, who's she facing? Lupi Godinez. So I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on. Are we going to get those fighters? I don't even know what the prices are. Like I see on my sheet, like I have Silvana Gomez Juarez at 7,600. We don't even know if that's the price. Deron Wynn was there at 7,200. Is Chris Curtis just going to come in and have a $7,200 price tag? I don't know. DraftKings has to add these players. So I don't even know. It's hard to even tell because now you can't even go by ownership. You can't go. I mean, what can I do now? Now I can't really do much. Okay, so we built 100 lineups. Okay, we did that thing with 15% on it. As we expected. Trevor Lawrence 15, Brissett 15, Brady 15, Dak 15, Daniel Jones 15. Then we start getting Burrow, Mac Jones, right? Burrow, Mac Jones, Tannehill, Lance, Mayfield. So we'll have a Joe Burrow. Okay, that's Cincinnati at Green Bay. Burrow, Higgins, Uzoma, Lazard, Adams. Got some pieces in there. Not the greatest of pieces, but some pieces. The thing that's noticeable in a lot of this, what's the most noticeable thing? Okay. Trey Lance, who's going to be popular. The lineups don't project that well. Like Trey Lance as a quarterback for 5,700 projects very well. Like if in cash games, if you're going to play him, okay, I see that. But the other side, it's like in combination, doesn't project as well. Right? If we go to the best Trey Lance lineup, we get 136 in this formation. You 3+2, which you're probably not going to do. So 136. Trevor Lawrence, 145. Brissett, 146. Brady, 146. Prescott, 152. Daniel Jones, 152. So Lance, 136. That's a significant projection difference. Right. If we go to that game, we go to that flex position. Right. We go to San Francisco, Arizona, which is a decent total. Like no one, like look at this. I mean, you could tell just from the RGVs. Like for their prices, it's like, yeah, the quarterbacks project very well. But on the other side, just at their prices, Edmonds at 5,900, Hopkins at 76, Debo at 71, Kittle at 56, AJ Green at 51. Like those pieces are the ones that don't in comparison to the rest of the slate. So I would have to think with the quarterback being popular, people are going to play these guys. 10% Edmonds, 11% Samuel, 11% Kittle. That this may be the game that's over them. The quarterback looks good. If we go by all quarterbacks, I mean, Trey Lance projects well for a sell. I mean, look, he's in our aggregate, he's the fourth highest from salary adjusted value plus minus. Daniel Jones is number one, then Prescott, then Murray. Like both of these guys, Murray and Lance are 3 and 4, yet the stack does not project well. Now let's say we bring it down. So now we're not going to play 3+2. We're going to play 3+1, right? And we're going to play with not pairing a quarterback with their running back. So we don't get the Brady Fournette teams. So we're doing it a little bit more like the type of lineup that you'd be building. So I'm going to do 3+1s. I'm going to keep the quarterback exposure to 15, just so we get we'll fill those up. We're probably going to get Dak. We're going to get Dane. We're going to get a lot of the same guys. But let's see if those Lance lineups come up now that we're not trying to force so many people in. And let's see if the Brady lineups come out decently when Fournette is not the guy that you're putting in. Probably, I'm assuming Brissett's still going to be high because what's going to end up happening is that Fournette, you're going to get the 3+1 Brissett, You're going to do Brissett, Waddle, Gesicki, and Fournette as the run back. I'm still expecting these Dolphins to show up well. The Brady lineups will still show up, but probably not as well as the Brissett lineups. And we still have the Dak and Daniel Jones lineups will still be there. Trevor Lawrence, you'll still get the run right because you'll still get Derrick Henry in there. So I expect Trevor Lawrence to show up as well. So let's build 100 lineups like that. So I'm getting more of a sense of where Trey Lance fits in and Kyler Murray fit in. Because, yeah, if you try to jam in 5 guys from the game and the game doesn't project well from a player-by-player basis, the more that you add to it, the worse the lineup gets. So now we're taking one of those guys out and go, okay, now how much closer are those stacks to the other stacks? So running these lineups. Benjamin St. Germain. When you say Trey Lance is going to be popular, do you mean in terms of ownership? Well, yeah. I mean, what else would I mean? He's gonna be popular in what? In the cafeteria? I mean, like, we're talking about DFS here. What else? What other type of popularity would we be talking about? He's gonna be popular. He's gonna get all the chicks. I don't know. Yes, ownership. But I don't know. Yes, popular meaning people that play DFS in GPP contests will be picking. Okay, so we got 95. Okay, so let's take a look. We still get tons of Fournette, right? Go to quarterbacks. Oh, now we're getting Burrow. Now that we knocked out, so we don't have to get 2 run backs. Now we're not getting as much Brady anymore, right? Brady, Brown, Godwin, Gesicki, right? You're not getting as much. You're getting more Brissett, right? So you can play Fournette on the other side. Right, you get Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott. That's easy. But we are getting Burrow now. Right, Devontae Adams, and you play Burrow with 2 pass catchers. Boyd, Higgins, Chase, probably more Boyd than Higgins. Or Zoma at 3,000. So now he comes up. Mac Jones. Only because Jacoby Myers projects very well. Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, Jonnu Smith, Brandon Cooks, revenge game, right? If you want to call it that. Now, that's one of the lowest totals on the slate, but I mean, if you just went by totals, you'd be like, why am I playing Mac Jones? But according to this, the Mac Jones lineups actually project well. Right? So we wouldn't have known this, but we take a look at Trey Lance. Dude, 1 lineup, 134. Right? I took away the ability for a slot. So I didn't have to force 2 run backs. And I still barely get any Trey Lance. Right? So compare the quarterback stacks, because these are going to be lineups that look more like what you're playing. Right? 3+1s. So Burrow, 145. Mac Jones, 146. Brissett, 146. Daniel Jones, 152. Prescott, 153. Like, these Cowboys Giants lineups are going to project higher than anyone else. Brady, 145. Rodgers, 145. Herbert, 144. Cousins, 144. Trey Lance, 130, 134. We're still getting, I mean, the Trey Lance lineups do not project well. When you're combining a run back and everything. Now, okay, let's take away the run backs. And you go, okay, who says you have to play a run back at all? You're just going to play a quarterback with 2 pass catchers, and that's it. Okay, let's take a look at that. Cap the quarterbacks at 15% just so we fill them up. If we didn't do that, we'd get all the Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott. So I'm scraping away. We found out that these Mac Jones lineups, 3+1, they project just as good as some of these other lineups. And this is one of the lowest total games. I don't know the ceiling, maybe it's not there. But I can't ignore it. I can't ignore the fact that Mac Jones lineups, Mac Jones plus 2 pass catchers plus a run back in that game, Brandon Cooks or whatever. I can't ignore that the lineups as a whole project well as any of the other lineups. How would I have known that without running these lineups? That's why I'm running the lineups. That's why I'm seeing. So when people say, how do you target? What games do you target? Like what I'm doing it. Now, do I have to run these lineups in order to see that? No. I mean, I could look just by looking at the players. But if you want to run the lineups like this, you can. And I can see immediately that the Cowboys-Giants game is going to project well as a whole, playing a game stack. But now we're just doing no run back, right? So we're not worried about the other side of the game. We're just worried about a quarterback and 2 pass catches. And we're still not even getting, we got a little bit more Trey Lance, but not that much. Now we're getting Justin Herbert. More of him. Herbert, Allen, Cook. The problem is that Cleveland doesn't have much on the other side, right? We weren't getting much Justin Herbert before because we needed a Cleveland run back in those types of lineups. So looking here, you obviously that Jones and Prescott. We still have Mac Jones, right? So we're not forcing in Brandon Cooks or anything. They still project well. Getting more Kirk Cousins. Cousins, Osborne, Conklin, if you want to play that combination. Right? But these Trey Lance lineups, I mean, now you get some. Now Trey Lance is within the realm when you don't have to force back an Arizona player. Right now we're getting him at 145. Right, so Herbert 147. We can see here, like Herbert 147 is a good lineup, but it doesn't include a Browns player. Because if we go back to the previous build where we did 3+1s, we're going to go to the Herbert one. Right, we only had got 2 and 100. Right, 144. So it didn't project horribly, but it needed Austin Hooper because you needed the run back, right? Austin Hooper. So like these lineups, like Herbert as a 3+1, 144, but as a 3+0 is a 147. So this is the type of thing you'd look at and go, if I do play Chargers, maybe I don't need Chargers lineups don't need a run back, right? Or you take a look at even the Trey Lance lineups and go, if I play this Trey Lance with an Arizona player, like I can't get highly projected lineups as much. So maybe for the Trey Lance, I don't need a run back. So when people ask, like, when do you need a run back? When you don't need a run back, doesn't mean you can't do it. But it's more likely that you don't because you're just adding poorer projected players to your lineup for the sake of correlation. And is that correlation going to make up for the gap in projection? In the cases that we're looking at, probably not. We get some Taylor Heineke that we weren't getting before. Right? Because New Orleans pretty much doesn't project well. Right? So Heineke, Samuel, Ricky Seals, Jones, very cheap, right? $3,000 for Samuel, $2,500 for Jones. The problem is that there's no New Orleans players that project well enough. That makes the stack work out. So if we go to the previous one, I'm not even sure if we got any Taylor Heineke in 100 lineups. So these were the 3+1s. Now we didn't get any, right? So in the 3+1 construction, you didn't get any Heineke in the top 100. But in the 3+0s, without the run back, you could see here, got 8. That's primarily because, well, we're not forcing in a New Orleans player. Now let's say we go to even further extreme. We're not even doing 2 pass catchers. We're just doing 1 pass catcher. Just a quarterback and a pass catcher. That's it. Maybe how about a quarterback, a pass catcher, and a run back, right? Because before we were doing 3, we did 3+2s, we did 3+1s, we did 3+0s. So how about a 2+1, right? This would be a skinny stack with a run back. So we'll build 100 lineups like that and see what comes up. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of, we already know what we're going to get. We're going to get a lot of Dak. We're going to get a lot of Daniel Jones. We're going to get a lot of Jacoby Brissett. We're going to get some Tom Brady. Like the stuff from before. If they projected well 3+2, they project well for these also. So we're going to run these and see what comes up in these constructions. Heat Nation, Blender on last night's Showdown slate with Carson out, playing Cup was the correct move. That didn't work out. Well, it depends on the lineup. There's no such thing as a correct move. There's no such thing as a move. You have to lineups, not players. Dave Spag, what's your approach with building lineups for single games, specifically games with MVP? Are you talking about FanDuel? FanDuel Showdown slates? If you look at the lineup and you like it, then it's a bad line. You have to look at your lineup and think that why am I throwing money away? If you're playing large field contests on FanDuel, even DraftKings for these Showdown slates, if you look at your lineup and you feel good inside, then it's going to be duplicated 800 million times. If you look at the lineup and go, I'm not sure if I'm just literally taking money and throwing it in the toilet, that's a lineup you should be playing. Look, the winning lineup, solo winner on FanDuel yesterday had Geno Smith in the flex spot, the backup quarterback. Okay. Do you have to get that nuts? No, you could have played Michelle in that. Actually, no one had the optimal on FanDuel yesterday. Because the lineup that won with Geno Smith could have played Sony Michel for an extra point and been higher. And he was much more of a viable play than the backup quarterback to Russell Wilson. So yeah, you should be playing lineups like that. Let's see. Okay, so we're running these skinny stacks. These are now 2+1s. So we're running through there. We get Burrow, Jones, Brissett, Prescott, Jones, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence. Then we get more Aaron Rodgers, which makes sense, right? Because now we're not forced to put in a second Packer. So Rodgers, Adams, Higgins. You don't get as much Brady as I would have expected, right? Brady, Brown, Waddle. We still get a lot of Mac Jones, though. Jones, Myers, Cooks. So we go through here. Burrow, 148. Jones, 149. Brissett, 149. Dak Prescott, 153. Daniel Jones, 153. Trevor Lawrence, 147. Rodgers, 147. Kirk Cousins, 147. Drew Lock. Here's a Drew Lock lineup. Skinny stack. So Drew Lock obviously does not make sense. We didn't see Drew Lock in any of the 3+1s or anything like that. So probably Drew Lock is more likely to be utilized as a single stack. Derek Carr, more likely to be used as a single stack. He wasn't coming up in the top 100 for any of the other ones here. Okay, but we still get some Jones and Burrow, and we got some of these guys. Okay, now what's the easiest way to stack? No run back, just a quarterback and a wide receiver, tight end, and that's it. So let's take a look at those lineups. To me, this is research. This is what you should be doing. What do lineups look like? This is before you take into account ownership, just to see what projects well together. Instead of having to go, I'm going to play this guy, and then that guy, and then this guy, and I don't know about that. And dude, just run the lineups. Just run the lineups and see, right? You're looking throughout. The people look, on Tuesday, they're already looking at the slate. Why? Dude, wait till Sunday morning and do this if you want. Just run the lineups and see. Dude, do you think going into the slate, I would have considered to play Mac Jones with one of the lower totals, right? I mean, what is the total of that game? It's horrible. It's 39.5 total game. I would have just X'd them out, right? If I didn't run lineups, I would have X'd it out. Now, obviously, we don't know what the ownership, right? We have to still look at the ownership of those lineups. Most people would have looked at a 39.5 point total game and say, how do you stack that game? Well, according to the projections, it's a candidate based on the pricing. Am I going to be heavily invested in that game? Probably not, but I mean, it gives me an option. Would I have gone into the slate going, well, Jacoby Brissett, a Dolphin stack with a Tampa Bay run back? That people may be thinking about playing Tampa Bay. They go, I'll play Brady, I'll play Brown, I'll play Godwin, something like that, and run it back. It's like, why don't I just play the Brissett side? Maybe people aren't going to do that. So I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have thought about it. So now we're just doing simple stacks here. So no run backs, no nothing. So you're getting a lot of more Herbert, right? But still, you get a lot of Mac Jones. Mac Jones projects pretty well in our little aggregate here, and you get more Trey Lance, obviously, since you're not forcing in so many other people from the game. So this is what you could see. So what do we learn from this? You go based on this. I'm much more likely to play Justin Herbert without a Cleveland run back. Much more likely to play Trey Lance without run backs or Taylor Heineke without run backs, right? I'm more likely to play Brady and Brissett with run backs, right? Because here, look, when we do the simple stack, right, just quarterback and wide receiver, look at Brissett. Brissett isn't here. Brissett doesn't show up. We go back one to the 2+1s. Brissett shows up a ton, only because obviously these lineups, the Tampa Bay player is Leonard Fournette in a running back slot. Or Antonio Brown, I guess. Maybe in some. So that's what helps the entire lineup. And you're playing players from the same game. So this Brissett, Gesicki, Fournette lineup, or the 3+1 or something like that, is way better than if you're going to play, I'm going to play Jacoby Brissett, but without any Tampa Bay run backs. Well, based on our projections, those lineups are actually worse. So Brissett is the type of quarterback that you'd be building 3+1s with, or 2+1s, but not naked, not just simple stacked. Yet Herbert, on the other end, would be the opposite. You'd play Herbert not in a 3+1, but in a 2+, just Herbert and a pass catcher. Oh, okay. Right? So when you go build your stacks now, you could put in different types of stacks and click on the teams that you want this types of stacks from. How would you know which combinations to do this? Well, look, I'm showing you the process. This is using the aggregate of the blitz and the gridiron IQ projections. Remember, you're using your own projection set, yours from somewhere else or whatever. Maybe these players project slightly different. Some guys may be slightly higher. Some guys may be slightly lower. Maybe those Herbert stacks with the Browns run back, right? Maybe the Browns project better, slightly enough better in your projection set that Odell Beckham Jr. comes up or something, or Nick Chubb comes up more. And now those lineups look better. Oh, okay. That's fine. Maybe you're going to aggregate from 6 different sources. And okay, do that also. I'm just saying, based on the numbers that I have in front of me, once you have the numbers, once you're satisfied with here are the projections, the next job is just putting them together mathematically. That's it. You're not trying to do anything else. So in utilizing the stacks feature in Lineup HQ, and then just running lineups, 100 lineups, 200 lineups, 300 lineups, whatever you want. Finding which combinations go together better. Now, if we were to save some of these lineups, right? Let's save some of these lineups. Okay, so do we have Daniel? Okay, these are 3+2s. We're probably not going to play 3+2s, but we could. I mean, you could. Okay, so I'm gonna save a whole bunch of them. This may take a minute. Save all lineups. Go to build 2. So we're combining them all together. That's what I'm trying to do here. Save all lineups. Can we say? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think there's a limit on how many lineups I can save. Save all lineups. Yeah, I don't know why it's only saving a. Am I getting duplicates in here? Is that why? I have no idea what's going on because I typically don't save this many lineups like this. 314. Okay, we'll just put whatever shows up in here that shows up. 414. Because now it's going to start getting slow. Save all lineups. 514. I don't know why I was only saving a couple here. Maybe do duplicates. Okay. Okay. So now that all these lineups are saved and all the different configurations, right? Let's go to the save lineup section, which is going to take forever because I have 614 lineups in there. Yeah, it's kind of breaking. I don't think you're supposed to save that many. Okay, so here we go. So you go to the quarterback. We have all these different types of lineups, right? And we have the ownership projections next to them. So let's say, we look at the Daniel Jones lineups and it's like, well, we don't want to play the chalkiest ones, right? So we take a look, we kind of do the same thing that we did before, like 135. In theory, you shouldn't play a lineup that is higher projected, that's low, that's higher owned, that's lower projected. So we're going to get rid of the ones that are lower than it, right? Do that little exercise. Well, 149, 143. Here's a 143 lineup. Not that much different than that, right? Here's a 135. We're probably not going to play a lineup that's chalky. 135. Can we beat 135? As we go down. As we go down. We're just getting rid of these lineups. $130. Okay, we got a 130. I mean, these lineups are fairly chalky as it is. Probably gonna get a little bit more different in larger field GPPs, but these lineups would be fine in smaller field contexts. 130, 132, 146. Can we find anything 130 or below? Let's see. 127. Just looking to get rid of a bunch. Right? 130, 146. No, we've got rid of these. Probably should have done it with a quarterback that we have less lineups from. 130, 134. Well, let's take that 130 lineup. Unsave all lineups below. Right. Take that. Okay. So let's say we want to compare lineups to one another, right? So here you go. Here's a Daniel Jones lineup at 130. So now we're just looking for other lineups in like 152, 130 range. Okay. Did I get rid of everything? Apparently I got rid of all my saved lineups. Now it's only at 23. I don't know what the hell's going on. Why did I get rid of all those? So we're looking for like where's that lineup that we just had? Like if we're playing a Daniel Jones lineup, that's one right here. That's 152 at 130. We probably shouldn't be playing any lineups from the other quarterbacks that projected, well, none of them projected 152 that are 130% owned in total that have that less of a projection. Like we wouldn't mind 120, 110, 100, but if we're going to play Daniel Jones lineups that are going to be 130% cumulatively owned, probably not going to play lineups from the other quarterbacks. So we take a look here, like at our 2+1s. Like basically anything one high to low, 130 or below, like is no good, right? So we look here, like 130, 147. So this is a Jacoby Brissett lineup that's also at 130, but it projects for 5 points lower. So basically, you'd want to find a Jacoby Brissett lineup that does project lower, but also is much more lower owned than 130%. So in this build that we built here, I mean, because my saved lineup section is borked. Do we have any? So looking down here, let's look at the bottom in ownership. 148 at 122, right? So that's at least it's lower. So you'd be looking at something more in this range, because if you're going to give up this projection, you want to get less ownership with it. So if you go to the Joe Burrow lineups, anything at 130 is not going to be good enough because you're sacrificing 5 points of projection from those Daniel Jones lineups. So I'm going to sort it by ownership and go down and see what's at the bottom. 118 at 147. So you're sacrificing like 4.5 points of projection for 12 ownership percentage points, which probably isn't that great, but at least it's lower. So this would be the type of lineup that you're comparing to the Daniel Jones line. Okay. What projection should you have for 100% ownership? Maybe it's 142. Who knows? So those are the types of lineups that you're comparing to one another. You're not looking to play all your lineups at 130% owned and they have all different projections. Like, you want to make sure that for every projection point that you're giving up ownership in addition. How much? I don't know. That depends slate to slate. You're going to have to guess on that amount. You have to judge it for yourself. But you have to know the concept of you should not be giving up projected points without also giving up projected ownership. That's the main concept that you need to get. So that's why when you build all these types of lineups and you go, well, what's better, a 3+1 or a 2+1 or a 2+1? Like, those questions can't be answered. It depends on the exact lineup, right? Maybe there's a 2+1 that fits that bill that there's no 3+1s that do for a certain team, but there's a single stack, Trey Lance plus Deebo Samuel and a bunch of one-offs that may be fine, and that lineup may be equal to a 3+1 of Jacoby Brissett, right? So, like, which one is it? There's no answer to it. You have to just build lineups and see with the projection and the ownership which lineups are all about, and they're all about the same. Once you get to that right range, you could build thousands of lineups that are all probably the same expected value with different quarterbacks and different running backs and different other things. It's like, well, which ones do you play? It's like, close your eyes and play 100 of them. How many lineups are you playing tomorrow? 50. Okay, then close your eyes and play 50. But what happens if they're all the same quarterback? Well, technically, they all have all the same expected value. So you can do that. But if you have 5,000 lineups to choose from, and you're playing 50, and all 5,000 are equal, why wouldn't you want to be diversified, right? So you play 5 of each quarterback. I mean, if there's enough of those lineups, most likely you're going to, out of those 5,000 lineups, 2,500 of them may be the Cowboys-Giants game, right? So if you want to play, I want to play whatever. I want to play a Derek Carr lineup. Out of those 5,000, there may only be 6 Derek Carr lineups to begin with, out of those 5,000. So how many of them can you play? Right. So that's what I mean. But they're technically all equal to each other. So it really wouldn't matter from a long run. If we played this out a million times, it wouldn't matter which 50 you chose. Okay, let's see. Go through the YouTube chat before we get out of here. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, assuming that if you want to see if you could build around a leverage piece, AJ Brown to Henry, for example, you just lock him in and then run the same process. Yeah, that's a way to research it. Yes. Run Henry lineups and then run Brown lineups without Henry in the player pool and see the differences. See what Henry lineups from an ownership and projection standpoint equal lineups with Brown in it, right? And obviously you're going to be giving up ownership. So what's that gap? How many projection points are you giving up for doing that leverage piece? How much is that leverage worth? If you see that you could build AJ Brown lineups that project without Henry, that project only like 1.5 difference, go for it. I mean, that seems like, why not give up 1.5 to not have Henry? Because obviously if Henry's going to be 22-24% owned, not having Henry drops your ownership. So you may be giving up 1.5 projection, gaining 15-20 percentage points in ownership. And okay, there you go. How do you know that that's the case? We'll run the lineups and see. Ruben, so Blender, once you see the types of primary stack lineups, you throw the secondary stacks and third stacks and run the lineups again. Yes. Right. So you can see what secondary stacks. Now, obviously, secondary stacks are going to be very similar to the primary stacks, like the Giants Cowboys game. Like, when there are more pieces in the game that project well, once you say, I want guys from the same game together, they're going to be the ones that be plugged in together. It's going to be less likely you're going to get Chargers because the Browns players don't project that well. So in a secondary stack, you go, I want 2 sides of a game. Well, it's probably not going to be Chargers Browns, right? So you're probably going to be jamming in other things. So if you want to do that, so when you do this and you do the secondary stack, there may be some lineups that like the lineups that don't project all that well from a primary stack perspective, maybe you'd rather have one-off so you get as much projection in those versus the Giants Cowboys lineups. I'm much more likely to have secondary stacks. Why? Because it already projects well from a primary stack perspective. So I don't mind putting in max correlation because I don't need to prioritize projection. I need to prioritize ownership, right? In those types of lineups. But in the lower lineups, like those Trey Lance lineups, most likely you're not going to be playing secondary stacks in those lineups because those lineups already project low in comparison to other lineups. So once you add the correlation, you're now forcing the optimizer to play two sides of a game, even if they're not projected well together. You'd rather have the two one-offs because in those lineups, they already project low. So you kind of want to raise the projection in those types of lineups. The Cowboys Giants lineups, they already project well. Like the Jacoby Brissett lineups, most likely going to have secondary correlations in it. The crappier, the Herbert lineups are more likely not to. But you'd be able to see that. I mean, I'm saying this because I've done this 8 million times and I understand the concepts of how it's going to show up mathematically. But you could run it and see perfectly. Go through this entire process. Michael Dampier, for a large field contest like the slant, if you have lineups with Brady, are you okay using two main wide receivers with him in the stack? Or is there too much cannibalization for that of a large field? Just do the process that I'm doing, right? I mean, do Brady and Godwin and Brown do the 2+1? Just run the lineups, right? A lot of people ask these questions. I do shows like before lock, and they go, "Can you play this and this? Can you play that?" Like all the answers are in front of you. Okay. How would I know this? Well, because I run the lineups. That's all you need to do. It's not complicated. What I just showed you is not complicated. Did anything look complicated at all? Did you have to look and see all the settings? No, they just set up a stack and run the lineups, right? And then cap the quarterbacks just so you get a bunch of them so you see which ones show up. Or you could obviously X people out. You just go, okay, I already got all the Daniel Jones and Dak. I get it. I get it. That game projects well, and just X them out and see what comes up next. Right? And just see what comes. How would I have ever known Mac Jones lineups actually do project well? Well, by just running it. That's it. Well, can you play this guy and this guy together? Well, now I'm only building 100 for the sake of time, but build 300. Build all these Brady lineups as 3+1s and see what they do. You get Evans? Do you get these combinations with two wide receivers that project well enough for their ownership? In 300 lineups, if you only get two of them, that's probably not going to find many, right? But if you get a healthy bunch of them, then it's okay. You've answered the question. You don't have to ask me. Just run the lineups and see. Oh, let's see. DJ Dog 3K. Just wanted to hop on and say thank you for the great content between this and the Theory of DFS podcast. My game is immensely improved. Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Ruben asked, how did I aggregate? I just rewind. I did it in the very beginning. You go to the upload, download projection screen. You could upload whatever projection sets you want. And you can go to this weight section here. And weight whatever projections you have loaded in here in whatever percentage points you want. Right? And then it comes up as a source. Right? Blitz Iron IQ projections. Right? You could do that. This is how you use the tools to do research. So when I say do research, this is research. Going in and looking at the passing rates of teams is not, it's already in the numbers. That's what the numbers are for. We have the projections, we have the ownership. It's just a matter of what's your number. If you don't agree with the number, change the number. I'm perfectly fine with that. You're like, oh, well, I think Mac Jones should be projected for 16. So then change it to 16 and then do the same process. The exact numbers don't even matter. The process matters. Once you get to these numbers, I think Trey Lance is going to be more than 15%. I think you go to the running back position, you go, okay, let's sort by ownership. I think Derrick Henry is going to be 30% owned. So put in 30 and then do the same thing, right? You don't have to trust the numbers of like I disagree with certain guys in the gridiron IQ. Well, then change it. But once you agree on a number, then you're done. Then you're done thinking about football. Then you just run the lineups and see what shows up better. Combinations that show up better than others. That's it. You're done. That's DFS. But this is playing DFS. This is doing it the manual way. You could simulate this entire process if you want. But if you try to do that, you better make sure you do it well. Because I've tried to do it before and it doesn't work out if you're not good at it. Right? Stuff comes out and you go, this doesn't make any sense. I must be screwing up. Right? Because I'm not as gifted of a programmer that I'll put stuff together like this and see like, well, why am I getting 78% Austin Eckler for why? Like, well, because of some punctuation is off. Something is some name validation, right? You get, it's especially when you're like getting stuff from different sources. Some junior has a period at the end. This one doesn't, and then it breaks everything. And then you're right. By the time you figure out what's wrong, you've already gone through like 17 things, and you forgot the 16 things you did prior to that. And then you run the thing, and nothing works anymore. So like that's my life trying to do that all like myself from a simulation perspective. So I'm much more likely to do it like the manual way, which is what I'm showing you. It's kind of the manual, the more every man's way of doing it. And you're most likely going to be directionally accurate. This is the way that I've been doing it for 6 years. So, and I'm profitable, right? I've made tons of money. So there, this is research. This is what you could be doing Sunday morning, right? Because these projections, we're going to have some news today and, adjustments and ownership adjustments or whatever. You could literally just wake up Sunday morning and do this, right? All the work is done for you. Just sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. Sign up for Premium, you get the projections, you get the ownership, you get everything. Get all the content here for one price. Click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. And a lot of the concepts that I'm talking about are in my course, right? The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, how to think like a professional DFS player. It's a 15-hour audio masterclass. You could probably watch all of these DFS pregame shows I've done. I've done hundreds and hundreds of them. You probably get pretty much everything that's out of here. But do you want to spend 500 hours going through? No, you get it all in one pot, all in your pocket, all together. As it applies to any sport. So it's not just NFL, right? Game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploits, and psychology. Everything that you'll need to play like a pro, right? When this is how pros play. They're not sitting there watching all the games and stuff. They're not. Just how do we put the numbers together better than other people that typically aren't putting the numbers together? They're going, I like Trey Lance, I'm going to stack this game, and not realizing that the ownership is too high for the projection. That doesn't mean they can't get there. Sure, just that it's less valuable than other lineups. And when you play the Mac Jones lineup or the Jacoby Brissett lineup and you win, people go, you're a donkey. You're a donkey. I can't believe you played Jacoby Brissett and you won the Millie, right? Which I don't play, but you won the slant or something. And they go, those people don't realize that if they actually did their own projections, or at least got projections from somewhere and actually ran the lineups, that those lineups are way better than the Trey Lance lineups that you played, that the other guy played, or other people that I played Nick Chubb and Austin Eckler. It's like, yeah, your lineup projected for 12 points less than mine. Yeah, but you played Jacoby Brissett at the quarterback slot. So who cares? We're talking about lineups, people, not players. It's all about lineups. So if you want to do all that, you want to think in the right way, theoryofdfs.com. Pick that up there and give me some thumbs on your way out the door. Thumbs. I'll be back on later today. We're recording the Advanced Sports Analytics show, and that should be posted on the channel probably around 4 sometime this afternoon. And we got tons of content coming up for NFL Week 5. Got a bunch of shows tomorrow, later today, obviously Sunday morning. So subscribe to the channel, download the RG app if you want to listen. If you just like listening to the shows, right? You can do that there when they're live. And I'll be back on Monday and we'll review what happened over the weekend, because that's what I do here, right? Helping you out, reviewing slates, answering your DFS strategy questions here on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.